Hey, I'm Will from Tested. Today, we're going to take apart the brand new Xbox 360 wireless controller. It's the one that ships with the new style Xbox 360. You can tell because it has the black back instead of a gray back. And basically, the rumor is this is the same as the European pad, which has more contacts under the D-pad, thus making the D-pad better. I have an old Xbox 360 controller here to show you comparison shots. I don't, unfortunately, have exactly the right tools to take this apart. It uses some weird security bits. We'll talk more about that in a second. So in my left hand, I'm holding what looks like a normal Torx 8 head. Unfortunately, it has a security post in the middle, which mates in with the screw on the Xbox 360 controller, and means basically that you can't use a normal Torx driver to take the screws out. So luckily, I have these security bits. You can get sets of security bits at Amazon for like $10 or $15. Just search for security bits. This is just a standard kind of throwaway cordless drill. This is my standard. It's my very handy, very useful kind of multi-bit screwdriver. I use it all the time. I don't know that I'm going to need it here, but just in case, it's always better to have it than to not. Finally, a metal spudger. I'll use this to clear out the plastic chunks when I drill out the holes on the 360 controller. So the 360 controller has 6 really super obvious screws. Unfortunately, these 2 are too deep for me to get my shallow driver in, and I don't have a long security Torx head set. So I'm going to have to drill out the holes a little bit in order to get that down there. Probably not something you want to do if you want to use the controller again, because it's going to make those bottom edges rough right where they hit the heel of your palm. But I'm willing to sacrifice a controller, for science. Okay, so I'm unscrewing the first couple of screws right now. I'm going to go ahead and do the ones that I can get to. All these screws are the same, so you don't really have to worry that much about mixing them up. I'm going to ream out these holes, because as you can see, the bit just doesn't get down there. I need to make it a little bit deeper. I don't have the right tool here right now, and I didn't want to walk down to the hardware store, so I'm just going to use a drill bit. This is not something to do if you really like your drill bits, because it will almost certainly ruin them. You probably can't hear a word I'm saying. Let's see, that might be enough. Nope. Keep going. Have we gone far enough yet? Still no. Ah, there we go. So I've bitten. I'm going to unscrew this one, and then I'll do the other one. Actually, I'm going to unscrew this one a little bit. I'm not going to do it all the way, because I don't want to have the entire thing just floating loose while I'm drilling. The thing you want to avoid doing at all costs is biting through into the hole with the tip of your bit. That's why you really want to use a hole reamer. I don't know what they're called, but it's a carpentry thing. I'm going to use my spudger to clear out some of the bits of plastic shavings in here. That is all 6 of the screws that I could see. I think there's probably a couple more. Feels like something's holding it right here. I'm going to use my swift powers of deduction and guess that they probably hit a screw underneath the serial number label. Oh, there's definitely an indentation there. Oh, and there we go. So I was able to just punch straight through the screw, straight through the sticker to the screw. And there we go. So there's a couple of interesting things inside the 360 controller. First off, there's 2 motors, these guys right here and here. As you can see, this one has big weights, so it's for heavy rumble. The other one has little weights, so it's for light rumble. The more weight on off axis, this thing just spins, and it gives a kind of off-balance jitter feel. I'm going to pop those guys off so they're out of the way. I might use those for a project later if I can't get this back together. Other things that are of interest, of course, the triggers. They have this kind of rocking mechanism, and I assume that they're hitting potentiometers here. A potentiometer is just a thing that measures the relative movement in an analog way. Same thing over here on this side. There's the potentiometer. Some sort of processor chip, don't know exactly what that is. Here's the connector for the rechargeable battery that they sell. Here's the connector for the AA, so it uses a different power circuit for the lithium ion and the rechargeables. On the other side, of course, we have the sticks, dual thumbsticks, and you can see there's 2 potentiometers here, right here. So again, what they're doing is measuring the relative movement of the 2 axes. It looks like the click button, so when you click down on the stick, is right over here on this side. That's kind of interesting. Here's the connector for the play and charge kit. These 2 guys are the left and right bumper buttons, the top buttons. These are, of course, the triggers again. And then you can see that there's pads on the actual controller for the different buttons. So these are the X, Y, A, B buttons. This is going to be start, select, the Xbox button. And then here are the D-pad buttons. So it looks like there's only 4 contacts for that, which is kind of interesting. Although, if you look at it, there's 2 each inside each of these contacts. Now, conveniently, I have the old Xbox board here. That's interesting. This is a totally different board design. This one, as you can see, has an RF shield here. I don't know what's under there. I assume it's the kind of controller for the controller. Flip it over. You can see the old one has the gray thumbsticks and a lot of probably 5 years of thumb grease. The black one up here is brand new looking. Now, if you look at these pads, there's a little bit different configuration on the D-pad. I don't know exactly what that means. I'm kind of curious. I'm going to have to do a little bit of research. But it looks like there's a diagonal separation between these 2 things, and then you trigger it by mashing down on it. This is the D-pad, isn't it? Buttons everywhere, people. This is the D-pad. This is the pad that pushes down on the D-pad when you mash it. It's a little, the same thing that we see on a lot of different stuff. And it's going to go in like this and push down. I don't actually see that this is a 16-way or an 8-way D-pad unless they're shorting out in a specific way the kind of in-betweens. So we'll do some research online and post something in a caption or maybe attached to the video that explains whether this is actually 16-way or 8-way. I don't know. We've talked about the differences on the pads, but one of the other things that can make an impact on how the D-pad performs is the actual throw distance, which is the amount that it can tilt from side to side. The thing that determines that is actually the height of the D-pad itself. So I'm going to take it apart. I have an old school, original launch D-pad here from I think my first 360, and we'll see how it compares on the new one to the old one. There's just a couple of screws in here, which are normal Phillips head screws. They hold it down. There's also a couple of kind of clampy clasp things that pop in to really keep it super secure. So I'll pop those screws out. They're both gone. And then I'm going to take my screwdriver head and just jam it down in here and pop the tips out. You can see that's that. These are the same on both consoles. No differences here. Exactly the same height. This isn't really what's going to determine the throw. What's going to determine the throw is the height of the D-pad itself, because that's going to jam into the rim when you press down on either side. So I'm holding up the 2 D-pads side by side. It looks like they're about the same height. I mean, the change that's required to make the improvement isn't much. The new D-pad seems like it's a little bit taller on the edges. That could just be because I've used this one a lot and worn it down, although that seems unlikely, even though it could be 4 or 5 years old. I would guess that probably they've adjusted the height rather than adjusted above the surface, rather than the depth below the surface to adjust the kind of amount of movement that you feel like you get. So, for tested, that was how to take apart your Xbox 360 controller. I'm Will Smith, and thanks for watching.